I know, right when they win. Give me 1 second. I got to go grab the right headphone. I'll be right back. Hey. All right, I see it. Thank you. Yep. I need like 30 seconds and I'll be ready.
Yep. All right, Stochastic, here we go. It's your old pal EMac coming to you on a Sunday here as we get ready for baseball. MLB style, it's going to be a fun one because we have a skosh of weather. We've got some pitching, we've got some hitting, and we've got some fun. Matt, I did not win yesterday despite being after the Twins, despite getting the Alec Bohm home run. It was not a good main slate. It was not a good late slate. I'm in the doldrums. I need a gust from the gods to get me back on track.
Yeah, I feel that. I mean, coming from someone who played JP Sears yesterday, I'm right with you. So
may as well have been JP Losman.
I wish it had been JP Losman. Would have had 18 more fantasy points than the negative 18 Sears got.
Ooh, that was a rough one there. I didn't even see that one coming by any stretch. The late slate was, Morton wasn't very good. It turned out that Vasquez was the guy that survived. Rodriguez looked like he had a moment, but didn't get there. And then Glasnow was Glasnow. But we're on to a new day here. No Coors Field on today's slate. FanDuel decided to skip it this week, even though they included it last week. So we have 9 games. Yahoo being Yahoo is going with the 3 games featured slate starting at 4:00. They started their other slate at 11:35 today with that Roku game. So we're going to be focusing mostly on FanDuel and DraftKings for today. We'll hit the early slate. We'll hit that little short 2-gamer as well. But Matt, let's look at our pitching here. I was just checking the weather in Pittsburgh. We have rookie Paul Skeens going against the Tampa Bay Rays, which, of course, is going to be where we would like to earmark a lot of our dollars, our pitching dollars anyway. Does not look like rain is going to be an issue. Now, things could always flare up in the next hour and be an issue, but it looks like the storm is breaking up right as it's getting towards Pittsburgh. It looks like there's a good window until about 6 o'clock tonight. That is all courtesy of weather.com, Weather in Motion. I am not a meteorologist, but I'm going to play the rookie today. What do you got going on for pitching?
So yeah, Skeens is still probably too cheap, all things considered. Finally at 10K, but not priced where he should be yet. And the ownership is following. He's projected to be 45% owned. I expect that to be higher even in the main tournament and significantly higher in single entry 3-match stuff. I get it. I don't think he's like impervious to getting hit, but his strikeout upside is so elite that even if he does give up a couple runs, he'll make up for it in that regard. So Skeens looks great here, has a 34% chance of being a top 2 pitcher on the slate. So he is over-owned, and there are some other good pitchers today, but I think he looks, all things considered, like the guy with the highest ceiling. I do like Sonny Gray a lot. though, as well. A little bit more expensive. Ownership isn't even close to what it is on Skeens. He gets a good matchup at home against San Francisco, so certainly Skeens has higher strikeout upside, but I trust Sonny Gray as a pitcher more right now. So I think those two guys are your clear top two. And then Nick Lodolo at 9,200. Boston, obviously, would prefer picking on them with left-handed pitching. Lodolo, like Skeens, has monster strikeout upside. So I think those are your top three guys. You could probably order them in any way you want, ownership considered. Most people would have Skeens 1, Lodolo 2, Gray 3 because of the price tags. I think I have Gray as my 1, getting a really nice ownership discount there.
That's an interesting one. He did not even pop onto my radar this morning as I was writing up the article. I went a slightly different route. We'll get to that. But Sonny Gray was, I can't remember if it was last weekend or it was his last start, wrote him up. We've talked about him a fair amount. He has had a very, very, very good career. For as much guff as he gets from the DFS world, he has been an outstanding pitcher for some time. And that is always a little bit surprising. I think going against the Giants is decent. They're a capable lineup, not terrifying by any stretch. It actually hurts having Lamont Wade Jr. out against righties, but they're not exactly going to put the fear of God into anybody here. So I think that is definitely a reasonable look on that one. Bryce Miller is actually the guy that I want to talk about for a second. Couple key things you need to know about him. The strikeouts are not, that's the only thing holding him back from being an absolute ace in the eyes of DFS gamers. He gets okay. It's 8 to 8.5 per 9 innings. So not bad by any stretch, but we'd like at least a strikeout per inning if we've got our druthers here for DFS. He was 4th rounder in the 2021 draft after 3 years at Texas A&M. He jumped from AA to the show. Last year, he was the Mariners' top prospect and is just another in a line of excellent pitching that they've pulled together here with Gilbert and Wu. You've got Miller here. It's a pretty good line. Of course, they got Castillo in the mix as well. Much better than they have 3 and 4 years ago when it seemed like they had every crappy fly ball lefty in the league on their team. Going against Miami, okay, top part of the lineup, horrible second part of the lineup. Not a lot of power, 23rd in total strikeouts. They are the second worst scoring offense in the league. They get on base, they get hits, but they're not extra base, it's singles. So it's one of those where it's a kind of an empty lineup. When they string them together, you got problems against Miami. But after dealing with Luis Arias, this just isn't a great lineup. They got blanked yesterday. They won in extra innings on Friday, scored just 3 runs. So I'm good going with Bryce Miller here. Any counterpoint to that one?
Not really. I mean, I always prefer, it's just kind of the same thing with Gilbert and George Kirby we've seen the past couple of days. I always prefer these pitchers at home, but most road environments aren't as pitching conducive as Miami. So not only do they have a pretty weak lineup or a very weak lineup, but you get the ballpark in Miami. So if there was ever a time to take the Seattle pitchers on the road, I can't think of a better spot than in Miami, aside from maybe in Oakland. So yeah, I think that Miller looks solid here. I don't think he looks like significantly better than like the Nick Lodolos of the world, but I do think that, he's a nice pivot and not getting as much ownership. And then I think the elephant in the room is Reese Olson at 6,500.
We'll get to him in a second. Let's take a pivot over here to Cincinnati. We've got Lodolo taking on the Reds. They've got O'Neill and Devers in the lineup. That moves Connor Wong back to the 5-hole. He is actually a solid option for offense here. Dominic Smith, very, 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 very minuscule sample size, 19 plate appearances against fellow lefties this year. He has hit them well, but his if we stretch back to last year and include those numbers, he has essentially no extra base hits. I think, hell, he probably got most of his extra base hits this year in that limited sample size because he's got a 0.08 0.08 ISO, which is pretty hard to do. So I think we go to the advantage of Lodolo. The only knock there is warm weather and a home run friendly park here. But I understand the appeal for Lodolo. Did we find out who the bulk guy is likely to be for Boston? Did you come across any updates?
I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be Chase Anderson, who is awful.
I was hoping that's who it was. That's who I wrote up and said, if we get Chase Anderson, we're going to talk a lot about Cincinnati if we're not sure. Because I was trying to figure out if they'd call up somebody from the minors. I was hoping it was Anderson because he hasn't pitched in a week. He's 34 years old. They had one other pitcher. I can't remember who it is, but he hadn't pitched in a week either. So they got a righty lefty option going on there. I hope it's Chase Anderson. That would be awesome. But with Lodolo, I think he is reasonable. I like your Sonny Gray call out. The more I'm thinking about that, the more I'm a little disappointed that didn't pop up on my thinking this morning. But we had so many bad offenses here; it was easy just to pick on those guys. You do have a 28% strikeout rate from the San Francisco Giants against right-handed pitching since the beginning of last year. That is excellent. They have a reasonable power at 150 ISO, but if we look to Sonny Gray here, he does a great job of limiting power almost completely. Last year, he barely had 100 isolated 100 ISO. This year, combined with last year, it's 105 across both hands, batters of both handedness. So he's been really good here. So I think that one's okay. On the Reese Olson side of things, so he's in his second season, just like Bryce Miller. He's going against the horrible offense, just like Bryce Miller. His salary, though, all over the place. $6,500 on DraftKings, $8,300 on FanDuel. That's almost a $2,000 difference here. He has allowed 17 runs this month. That's no bueno. But he did on Monday go 6 scoreless in Atlanta against the Braves with 8 strikeouts. Eloy Jimenez probably isn't going to be back until Monday or Tuesday. So he is your SP2 on.
He's in the lineup today, actually.
Oh, did he get started early? Okay.
Yeah, but Luis Robert is out.
Yeah, okay. We'll call that a draw. Maybe a slight downgrade since Jimenez has been out for a little bit. He could be a little bit rusty. But yeah, that's not the worst thing here. Do we allow current form to be against the Braves? Do we take the whole body of work for the month of June? Similar to like an Alec Marsh, if you will. He had one really good game and a couple bad games, and the trend did not reverse itself. He went back to being bad. What are your fears of Olson today?
I mean, my fears are that he's not that great and he's going to be really popular because of his price tag. I normally don't love using pitchers like that. I mean, who does? But he's way too cheap for this matchup. So I think both pitchers in this game, Olson and Cannon, are completely viable. I was on Cannon a bunch last start against Houston. He was phenomenal. 1 out away from a complete game shutout. Always a little bit hesitant on a guy like Cannon who is coming off like his best ever start, piggybacking in that next start. It's the same situation for Olson, really. Coming off the best start of his season for sure in a really tough spot. I think both pitchers in this game are completely viable. I think Olson is safer, more proven. I think Cannon is getting I know Cannon is going to get a lot less ownership, so he's intriguing in tournaments. It's just a price thing. Like, what scares me is that they're going to be owned and that they're not great, specifically Olson. But as far as matchup, price, everything else goes, he looks like the best dollar for dollar pitcher on the slate.
So what about Cannon as an option? Now, here's the interesting thing. He only has 2 major league starts, if I remember correctly. Mediocre stuff, nothing overly exciting, despite the name Cannon. Not expected to get a lot of strikeouts, if I recall correctly. I think he has that, like they call a heavy fastball, meaning that it sinks as it goes through the zone, as opposed to your standard fastball. That could be a problem because the batters can get underneath it, then it's going to go very, very far. Any thoughts on Cannon at just $300 different, less than Olsen to be a little bit different?
Yeah, I think both of them are wildly in play. Cannon's underlying numbers are really, really good. Again, I'm always skeptical of a young guy like this coming off the best start of his career, but he's been really good in back-to-back starts. The ownership isn't there. I think his ownership will actually be higher than we're projecting, but we're clearly not projecting him to be highly owned, and he won't be highly owned. So I think he's really intriguing in tournaments. He's too cheap also for a really good spot. I like Olsen slightly more, I guess, for the safety, but when you consider ownership, I think that you could make a strong case for Cannon in tournaments.
Yeah, Cannon had 8.4 strikeouts per 9 innings this year in AAA. That was his first action in AAA, 37 and 2/3 innings. A lot of walks, 4.3. He projects for around 3 walks per 9. The 4.3 probably a little bit of an outlier there, just with the upgrade in hitting talent that he's going against. He projects for around 6 strikeouts per 9. That's the one concerning part there, because we know strikeouts are the currency of the realm. So he is the 10th ranked prospect for the White Sox. He is not on any industry lists, and his projected arrival for being a full-time player in the show is not until next season. So decent chance he gets sent back down at some point this year. But the White Sox just need pitching, especially till Clevenger is able to return. All right. Are we missing anybody in the middle? The guys that are going to get the 15 DraftKings points, the 18 DraftKings points. Feels like maybe a Nestor Cortez, Max Fried, tough matchups on either side. Any intrigue for them? I don't really want to go with Framber tangling against Baltimore. Baltimore's home run numbers are just absurd compared to the rest of the league. Even with Framber, who is the consummate ground ball artiste with over a 60% ground ball rate. I don't want to go there. What do you feel about the Southpaws in New York today?
Yeah, bunch of this on the slate. What was that?
I was going to say, or wait, are they in Atlanta? They are in New York today. Atlanta and
Yeah,
New York and New York.
They're in New York. So we see this all over the slate with Kikuchi, Valdez, Logan Webb, Fried. Cortez is getting ownership, but a bunch of really good pitchers in tough spots, not pulling a ton of ownership today. Cortez is the one getting love, 7,800. He's much better than that, especially at home. Really tough matchup. So I like the pitching more than the offense in this game as a totality, but I think every side has upside. You've got 2 good pitchers. Fried's a very good pitcher against 2 elite offenses. So certainly the offenses are always in play. Not top of the table today because of the matchups they're facing, but every side in this game has tournament appeal. I don't think you want any of it in cash games.
All right. I see Eric Johnson, Team Eric here, asking about the 4K pitcher. I'm assuming you mean Zach Kelly. He is a reliever. His longest outing was May 25th. He went 43 pitches, 3 innings against Milwaukee. He's probably good to go for about 25 pitches today. They'll hope to get 1, maybe 2 innings out of him before he gives away. And we think likely to Chase Anderson. So I would not go that route there. Anything else for our main slate pitching? What about Zach Webb for San Francisco here?
Yeah, I think he's fine. He kind of fits into that Valdez Fried bucket. Really good pitchers, not in great spots. Yeah. I don't mind the spot for Webb, but he's another guy I really prefer at home. Great pitchers park in San Francisco for him. He's always been much better at home. Not that you can't play him on the road, and I think he's fine here, but just like a secondary, tertiary GPP option. That's it.
All right. And that leaves us with Aaron Savale. Not really interested in him. Alec Marsh. I'm never going to financially recover from the last outing. You see Kikuchi, the birthday boy. Where's Sean V? The birthday boy gave up 5 runs, 4 homers to your Guardians last time he was out on the mound. He goes against them today. Not overly interested in him. And then you got Max Scherzer making his debut for the season. Don't really want to go there. Do we have any pitch count information on Scherzer?
He threw like 79 pitches in his last rehab outing, I'm pretty sure.
I was figuring they're not going to push him. I was figuring he'd talk his way into 75 to 80. Was my thought. So I'm not really interested in Scherzer today. You know what we should be interested in? We should be interested in a little DK Pick6 because they are giving away some free money for you to try their new product. They're the presenting sponsor of the show. Key thing you need to know, your first ever pick set. So the first time you play, they will back you up to $200 in play. So that is not a bad way to go. Key things you want to know, it's the pick'em game. However, you're competing against other gamers. And the wrinkle is they post the lines. The lines are then static. So you choose what you want. The picks do not lock until the games lock. So you are able to maneuver things around if you would like. But essentially, it is the standard pick'em game with Pick6. So it's important to utilize leverage in this. We have some tools available on the site that will help you out with Pick6 as well. But just remember, your first slate, you will get up to $200 back if you lose. So if you were to wager $100 and win 50, they'd give you another 50 to get you back to that $100 hole. If you were to wager $400 and lose it all, they'd give you $200 back. That's just on your first slate, but that is the DraftKings Pick6. You want to ask all sorts of questions, go talk to Eric Lindquist because he does videos and content for these, and he loves this game because he loves taking advantage of the foolishness of the other gamers that are playing it because it is a new format and they don't quite understand the leverage of going a slightly different route with a little less chance of success, but a much larger payout. Sounds a lot like DFS strategy when you're being contrarian. So think about it that way. All right, let's go to the stacks. Who is your top offense of the day, Matt?
That's a good question. I think there's a bunch of really good offenses today. I think overall it's got to be Cincinnati facing Chase Anderson and this pretty beat up Red Sox bullpen. Really good ballpark. Now they're getting ownership, so if you want to say that they're not the top because of the ownership, I get that. I don't think the ownership is too crazy though, and they are pretty clearly the top stack on the board. So I'm going to say Cincinnati, and obviously I like a couple other teams in tournaments.
All right. Would you consider the Texas Rangers against Alec Marsh?
I would. Marsh certainly gives up power. He's actually been worse against right-handed hitters. I actually like the other side of that game too in Kansas City. Yeah, I'm a huge Scherzer fan, like in real life, one of the best pitchers of my generation. But this is a guy we've seen a bit inconsistent over the past couple of years. He's been hurt a lot. His minor league rehab stuff shows exactly what we would expect. I think 17-3 strikeout to walk ratio, but 4.20 ERA, something like that. So I think the Royals are a high upside team that no one's going to get to. Again, I don't think it's going to work out all that often, but when it does, I think the Royals have pretty big upside. And then Texas, yeah. I got no issues picking on Alec Marsh, excuse me. The biggest problem for Texas for me is they're getting basically the same ownership as Cincinnati. And I'd much rather play Cincinnati than Texas here. I like pieces of Texas, Adolis Garcia, Wyatt Langford, who's hot right now, but I don't love them as a full stack considering their ownership.
That's fair because that, of course, is a thing, getting that leverage, doing something like from the field.
The other thing is with Marsh, and I've kind of been spot on with Marsh, and the field seems to be drawing big conclusions based on whatever his most recent outing is. So I played him in that day slate against the Yankees where he took a no-hitter into the 7th. He was massively underowned that slate for a 3 or 4 game slate. Obviously a tough spot. Then he came back and he was crazy chalk in Oakland against the A's. And I know it was a really good spot, but he was by far the most popular pitcher on the slate. Now, considering he was bad in that game, the field is all of a sudden flocking back to Texas as basically the highest owned stack on the board. I'm good on that.
So it's interesting that you bring that up because if we look just at the surface number, so over his last 5 starts, 27 innings, that includes his 7 shutout innings of the Yankees, and it includes him allowing 7 of his 9 base runners to score against Oakland there. He has a 7 ERA, not good at all. A 5 FIP, that's fielding independent pitching, which means that neutralizes the defense, but a 3.92 xFIP. which neutralizes out a few other things and goes with the expectations of what happened based on the hits, the defense, etc. So he is literally all over the board. Those numbers are just not aligned by any stretch of the imagination here. If you go back across his last 630 batters faced, he has a 220 isolated power, or just shy of 220, which is where you're getting the people very interested in Seager, Garcia, Semien, Langford, etc., etc. So I get it. This is one of those baseball being baseball moments. I don't want to play Marsh, but would it shock you if he gets a quality start today? No, it wouldn't. And it would shock me if Cincinnati doesn't have at least 5 extra base hits today in the matchup against Boston. So there we go. Let's see. Do you have any love for, say, the Houston Astros going against Albert Suarez? Perhaps your Guardians? Yeah. What do you got here for us?
So I could definitely see going with Houston here against Suarez. The top stat tool doesn't love them, but it's kind of all jammed. Like all the teams are pretty much jammed together. Still no Kyle Tucker, but Yordan Alvarez is back. They've got a 2K Carlos Salazar hitting 9th. So easy ways to get that stack to make it work. I see nothing wrong with Houston. I will say though, like a lot of teams look good on this slate. It's more about like the teams that in my opinion look better than just good. And one of those teams is Seattle. I hate the ballpark.
I love where you're going with this.
They're 3rd overall in our top stack tool. One of the lowest owned teams on the slate. Pretty clearly the top leverage team on the board. So I like Seattle quite a bit. I don't know if you have to 5-man stack them, even though I don't hate that, but certainly like Crawford leading off, Rojas sitting second, J-Rod, Canzone, I think Garver, Rayleigh, like the top 6 looks pretty good. I don't even think you're crazy to go down to the bottom either. I could see stacking Seattle here as a really nice leverage play.
So that is is what got written up by me in the Spotlight Pitchers and Tops stacks article here. I'm going to drop that free link into chat there. But key things I wanted to call out was Kyle Tyler. Hey, boy, his parents missed a chance. They could have called him Kyler Tyler. That would have just been awesome. And said Kyle
That's
Tyler.
Too much.
Yeah, it's a little hard. It's a little hard here. So he was the 601st player selected in the 2018 draft after 3 seasons with the University of Oklahoma. So he's a 20-round draft pick. He worked his way up through the Angels farm system, got a cup of coffee for 21 innings. Ultimately, they designated him for assignment the following spring. He was claimed by Boston, who dropped him 3 days later. But that's okay. San Diego picked him up for about a week. They cut him. The Angels got him again, cut him after 3 days, and then he was back to San Diego. And he actually got to play a little bit with them, made it up to the big leagues with them before ultimately being cut. He is also, this is a remember me game, because for a hot minute he was with Seattle. I believe he also had a moment in San Francisco. This guy has literally been everywhere. So there, somebody that gets cut and picked up 5 times in a 4-week period is pretty crazy by 3 different teams. That's just crazy, just pure craziness. In any event, he has been good at AAA this year. 2.8 ERA over 45 innings, but 18 walks, that's not good. 35 strikeouts, that's not enough. This isn't really a good spot for him at all. But I like the Mariners. I don't think we'll get the 9 runs we got yesterday, but I like him in this spot.
Yeah, I'm with you. Not a great ballpark, but that's part of the reason why ownership isn't there. So I think you can just mix Seattle guys in and they look pretty good here.
Yeah, good as duos and trios here. Do a little home run hunting. That for as much as the Mariners have kind of struggled to score runs, home runs have not been an issue. It's the strikeouts and the home runs occurring without people on base. But they've I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I think they've scored at least 7 runs like 3 times in their last 8 games or something like that. So it's not. They're starting to pick things up. Rodriguez coming around a little bit for all of his troubles at the plate, and boy, have there been troubles with his power. I think he's still hitting like 260 or 270. He's got 16 stolen bases. So, and he's got, I think, like 30 runs scored. So he's getting on base. It's just not with extra base hits. To wit, J.P. Crawford has the same number of home runs and 3 more extra base hits than Rodriguez, despite having 100 fewer at bats. That's not good.
The big problem with J-Rod, like you're right, he still is a fine DFS commodity because he gets on base at a decent rate and steals bags, but he hasn't been a 5K fantasy commodity, you know?
No, not even by any stretch of the imagination at this point. So hopefully he was the one they wanted to sign and not, it turns out it wasn't Jared Kelenic, but
I'm still a believer in J-Rod, to be honest.
Yeah. It just it just feels like it's just one of those seasons. It's just one of those seasons. Let's see. Let's see what chat has to say. See if they're complaining about me, because I can always do some more ads for them. Adam Frazier scratched. Let's see, Detroit.
Adam Frazier scratched?
Yeah.
Oh wow, I said I like the Royals a lot, so that changes things for me.
How many teams has Adam Frazier played for in the last couple of years? All of them, pretty much.
Probably, yeah, he's played for a bunch.
I was gonna say he was with the Mariners for a hot minute here, if I remember correctly. That was
for like a year,
2 seasons ago. Yeah. Let's see here. He has played since 2020. He has played for Pittsburgh, San Diego, Seattle, Baltimore, and Kansas City. So he's been on the revolving door there. Let's get back to the top stacks tool, see if there's anything else worth calling out. You kind of mentioned the both sides are aspect with the Yankees and Atlanta. We mentioned that we're not fans of Alec Marsh. What do you think about Tristan McKenzie?
Yeah, I'm good on McKenzie. He's cheap, but he just hasn't been very good against a team that doesn't really strike out. I'm completely out on McKenzie.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I meant, but he's the kind of guy that can absorb some punishment and end up just neutralizing a Toronto stack that once you get under the hood, Toronto has not been that good at all.
Yeah, I'm good on stacking Toronto. I just don't want to play McKenzie either.
Gotcha. Let's see, we have Randy Schwartz, this member super chat here, member for 21 months. How do you feel about Atlanta and Baltimore for single entry, Matt?
I think they look both those teams are in tougher matchups, but they always have big upside, and today is certainly no exception. So I don't love either of them here, but their upside is always, slate breaking for sure.
Baltimore has 124 home runs on the year. Miami have 61. It's a pretty big difference. Baltimore has 1,200 total bases. The Dodgers are 20 behind, and then the Yankees are 75 behind. So Baltimore is very, very good. They also have 59 stolen bases, which puts them in at 12th. So that is rather intriguing there. It's hard to go wrong with Baltimore. So the key worries that you have is that Framber Valdez is he's going to allow a solo shot, a 2-run double, and then nothing else. And that's the biggest fear going against a pitcher with Framber Valdez's ground ball proclivity. Let's see. I think we've uncovered, we've flipped over every rock there is. What about home runs for the main slate here?
I'm going to go Salvador Perez. I feel like he's really due, and he's got good numbers against Scherzer. So give me Sal Perez.
Right. I will be going with Cal Raleigh is not in the lineup. I will be going with Luke Raley, not to be confused with Cal Raleigh. Luke Raley. Why am I not? Am I being in? The Nationals aren't on the slate? Oh, because they're on the third course. Never mind. Oh, that's unfortunate. I had a fun, and I didn't think he was going to be in the lineup, but Jesse Winker has 12 stolen bases this year. I think he has like 14 total in his career or 17 total.
Yeah, he came in with 4, I think. He might have a 2020 year. Yeah, it's nuts.
It's like, wait a second, when did this happen? Because you're stealing bases there, my friend. All right, let's see what else we have that is fun to talk about. It's always fun to talk about the free things that we have here at Stochastic, and one of them would be free best ball content. So if you go to stochastic.com, if you look in the upper left of the headers, you're going to see best ball and in parentheses free. We're giving away all of Matt Kajeski's best ball content for free this year because we like you guys and we want you to stick around for the summer. So key thing you need to do, just have a Stochastic account. That's it. That's all it takes for entry into the best ball page. Just an account. You do not need to have a subscription. So that is very, very helpful. Let's look at our later slate here, Matt. And then we'll circle back and we'll show some lineup generator stuff here. But let's so it's a 2-game late slate. So I did dig into it, but the Los Angeles teams are not playing today. I didn't go figure out why. Yeah, they're not playing today. I was half thinking, I know there's like one more international game set, but I didn't think they were in it. So again, there was a few random Sundays that not all teams are playing this year, which is surprising. So it kind of stood out. Then the fact that there's two-game late slate, you've got Coors Field just sitting there at 3:00, and then you've got Sunday night baseball tonight, which of course always takes something off the top, and that is going to be the Mets and Cubs in Wrigley. But if we look at our afternoon slate, Pablo Lopez stands out as the best pitcher, but when you peel under the hood, I think your strategy is to not take him. Or if you do take him, I think it's to take Rooker or Soderstrom or Blade or Shea Langoliers or two of those guys against him because he is just not in good form. And I think people are going to see that name, they're going to see that matchup, and they're just going to click because it doesn't seem fun to take Hogan Harris. It doesn't seem fun to take Tobias Myers or Michael King, but I think that is the way to go. If you look at so Lopez has in his last 6 starts, he has just under a strikeout per inning, but he's allowed 9 home runs in these 29 2/3 innings. So he's allowed 9 home runs. That's a ton. By comparison, Tobias Myers has allowed 1 run in his last 20 innings. Michael King has allowed 5 in his last 26 innings, and Hogan Harris has allowed 4 in his last 25. All of them have been better than Lopez. In fact, what is that? 6 combined runs over like 70 innings there. I'm just saying the inclination here is going to be to take Lopez. What if you take the others and go against Lopez? Some serious leverage today. So I will be dabbling on with some hand-built lineups, specifically on FanDuel today, and not taking Pablo Lopez. It could be crazy, but it's just crazy enough that it might work. Matt, you want to poke some holes in that theory?
No, I mean, I'm always on board, like getting away from the crazy chalk guys, even if they're obviously the best on the slate. So kind of similar to like last night, except Lopez isn't nearly as dominant from a fantasy perspective. So that's all it is. It's just an ownership play. I get it.
So that is that. I think it makes, Oakland, I think they're 6th or 7th in home runs this year, but bottom 3 for runs scored. Right. So they've got power. They're just literally not getting anybody on base. They have the 2nd most strikeouts to the Mariners. Right. So you can give up a few solo shots. He could easily survive. We saw Ober yesterday gave up 2 home runs and just 2 home runs. 2 runs. That was it in his complete game yesterday. So who knows? But I think that is the approach to take. If we look at the stacking side of things, there's 4 teams. It's hard to not want to stack the Minnesota Twins. The call out there, though, again, is Hogan Harris has actually been decent as I kind of mentioned. So I think the truly sneaky way to go is to look at Yelich, Adames, Hoskins, Joey Ortiz. Why do we want to go down that path? Because they have the lowest team run total. It's like 6.3, or pardon me, 3.6 or 3.7. People are just not going to want to go there. They're the third best offense in the league right now. They're top 6 in like 4 of the 7 most popular metrics. They have a good offense. You don't like them. They're not household names, but they're pretty good. They're all putting it together this year. So this is all about ownership. This is all about leverage, and this is all about taking the road less traveled. That's it. It's not for the faint of heart, but the path is going to be nice, and it's not that far-fetched to get there. Let's look at the lineup generator, if you can pull that up, producer Jacob. I will pull that up. So there you go. I can see it already. So let's go to DraftKings. So key things with the lineup generators, you get to choose your stacking types here. So on DraftKings, you can choose 5-3, 5-0, or 4-4. On FanDuel, you can go 4-4, 4-3, or 4-2-2. Let's take all stack types and see what happens here. Let's do contrarian lineups. Let's have some fun and see what pops up. So you can lock in a pitcher if you'd like. You can lock in one hitter. Let's skip those. And let's move along here to building the lineup. So if we like a lineup, we hit save. If we don't like it, we discard it. You can build up to 20 into the holding pen here. And once you get up to 20, we'll go take a peek here and see what it looks like in the portfolio view of this, because you want to see who you're getting. We can click on that, and you can see to the right is going to be all of your players. So you can see that Paul Skynes, very, very, very popular. Sonny Gray coming up there. Number 2, a lot of Cincinnati players. So you can see as Jacob's clicking on these and highlighting them over to the left, it highlights the lineups. You can open them up. You can see who's on the team. You can swap out a player or two if you like. If you have the otherwise perfect lineup, but you think, I don't really want Julio Rodriguez in that one, I'm going to take him out. You can put in another outfielder. And then you can download this and then load it into your CSV file from the site you're playing on, upload it, boom. You're ready to go. This uses all the same tools and technology that the Sims use. So it's got the top stacks tool, it's got leverage, it's got all that fun stuff behind the scenes here. It's going to just select plus EV lineups here for you. So it's a great way to put together lineups if you're in a hurry, or if you just want to spend a few dollars having a good sweat. You don't want to put a lot of money into your DFS assets here. This is a reasonable entry fee. It's depending on the sport, it's usually around $12 to $20 per week. We have this for all the sports. So that's the lineup generator available at Stochastic. Let's see here. That was it. It doesn't look like we have weather. We still have 20 minutes until lock. How did this one go so quickly? Let's review. Well, it's because the late slate was incredibly tiny. Not much to talk about there. Let's review your top 3 pitchers. Matt, Skeens. We'll just call him
Skeens, Sonny Gray, Reese
Olson. Reese Olson. I'm going to put in Bryce Miller into that mix as well. The stacks, we're fingers crossed that we get Chase Anderson here. But where are you on the stacks? Are you going to put Texas slightly ahead of the Reds here?
No, definitely not.
No,
I mean,
the other way around.
Yeah, Texas isn't even top anything for me here. I mean, the ownership's already there. I don't need to pick on Alec Marsh. So it's going to be Cincinnati. Number 2, Detroit. I'm going to say Detroit and Seattle tied at number 2. And then deep tournament stack for me is Kansas City.
I think the Kansas City call is interesting. 3% ownership there. 4% chance of being a top stack. Nobody is higher than 9%. That is Cincinnati. You've got Detroit, Seattle, Atlanta, Boston, Baltimore, Toronto, and Texas. They're all between 6 and 7.5%. So everything is pretty well lumped in together today, which makes for some fun. It can make things be a little infuriating, but it can be a little bit of fun. Let's see if we get any questions popping up here. we did. Oh, I looked at Odd Shopper. Let me look at Odd Shopper and see what's popping up. It was a fun one. I wrote that up in the top stacks and spotlight pitchers article. We had the under on 5.5 or 6.5 strikeouts there for, who was it today? It was for Michael King. So King's actually a really good strikeout guy. He's got about 10.3 strikeouts per 9 innings. It was interesting today because he's going against Milwaukee. I mentioned that they were pretty good. Milwaukee over the last 2 seasons has about a 22% strikeout rate. So even though King is projected for just shy of 6.1 strikeouts, the under it does look pretty interesting there at 5.5. We're able to get it at positive money, positive 117. And at the same time, FanDuel also had the under on 6.5, and that was at minus 154. Both of those numbers brought a positive ROI. The minus 154 was about 3%. The under 5.5 for plus 117 was almost 5%. But it was interesting to see that it's a good example to show you what happens with, oh, I don't want to take the minus 154. And it's like, you get a whole extra strikeout there. You lose 2% in your ROI, but you get that little bit of safety. It increases the probability of from 48% of him staying below 5.5 strikeouts. It goes up to 53% staying below the 6.5 strikeouts. So it was interesting to look at all that stuff. But I don't want to do math. That's fine. OddsShopper does it for you. It just highlighted it. I dug into it so I could say, hey, look, it did all this heavy lifting for us and let us know that both of those wagers were pretty reasonable here. Let's see what's popping up there for now, and then we can slide on out of here. Scherzer is one of the better bets on the board right now. Under 5.5 strikeouts, that's minus 170 odds there. You also have Ryan McMahon for under 1.5 total bases. That's at minus 113. That's got a 5.8% expected value. That is the number one play on the board. And then what's another good one? Austin Riley under 1.5 total bases. They're going against Nestor Cortez. Oh, that's at Hard Rock. I should go bet that one since that is the only sports book I have. That is minus 120. That has a 5.7 expected ROI. The one thing I've learned dramatically in looking at OddsShopper and only having one sports book is to see how shitty some of the numbers are here on Hard Rock because they have no competition. So where FanDuel is pricing people to hit home runs at plus 500, it hardly ever gets above plus 350 for anybody's home run at Hard Rock. So you have to know what's going on with these wagers. But it's teaching me the value of $1. Not that I didn't know, but it teaches me the value of these tools. You can get the OddsShopper for $14.95 per week, $49.95 for a whole month. You get a half dozen Discord channels, plus all of the picks from all of our experts. But I think that'll do it for us, Matt. No need to run this show out any farther than we need to, because people are just going to get mad if I sit here and do more ad reads. So, well, one person won't. Tom, CEO Tom. He's like, yeah, you stay on till your last breath selling things for us. Well, we'll give him a little break. We hit 4 good reads there. That's pretty good.
That's funny.
I said one last chance. Almost made says, any thoughts on the showdown slate tonight? So let's quickly look at that. You've got the New York Mets. They are in Chicago. It is going to be Luis Severino going for the Mets. You've got Javier Assad going for the Cubbies. Assad's got about a strikeout per inning this season. He does an okay job of limiting power. He doesn't do it through ground balls. Surprisingly, he's got about a 40% ground ball rate. That's okay. It's not great, but he thrives on not allowing good contact. So that is his claim to fame there. But I think you still can look at Pete Alonso and Brandon Nimmo, and then switch hitter Francisco Lindor. Those are going to be the 3 guys that you want to get there against Assad. On the other side, if you flip the script and you're going against Severino here, I don't really want either of these pitchers. I would take a discounted Michael Busch. He should be batting near the top of the order. Bellinger is a little expensive. He'll be more popular. I like both those guys. And then Suzuki is all right. Switch hitter Ian Happ is always fun. And then Christopher Morel, who has a nice power spike. Let's see how he's doing recently. This season, that was last season. Let's go to this season. Morel's a 170 ISO against righties, fellow righties this year. Last year it was 240. So I think he is a potential home run option there. But that will do it. All right, we're going to slide on out of here. Thank you to producer Jacob. You guys can follow Matt at Fantasy Tips Matt on Twitter. You can find me at EMac DFS. I'm going to go take a nap because it's Old Guy Sunday and it is almost nap time. So I'm going to get these lineups uploaded, wake up around 3:30, see what's going on, see where I am in the standings. Hopefully recovering from these doldrums. But
That's a power move. I respect that move.
Yeah, you got to do. I already did my 5-mile walk today, wrote my article, did my show. It's good. Have a little leftover pizza from last night. It's gonna be a good afternoon. No trips to Home Depot or Bed Bath and Beyond, but maybe next weekend. But with that, gamers, good luck.